In this video, we'll take a 3D tour of the most common types of surfacing commands in Rhino. We'll see how they can look just the same and then with minor tweaks, look totally different. This will help illustrate which type of surface command might work best for you and your project. I've also purposely kept the examples pretty simple so the before and after will be much easier to see. Let's start off with these guys at the top. This will be where everything matches, just about. And a point of reference here I've got on the left, just a straight extrusion. All 6 of these would be identical if they were following a straight path here. But let's get started. Start off with the extrude along a curve. That's up on the menu right here. So you got to be careful. Some of these commands are very similar, but they pick the profile and rail in different orders. So this is asking us first for the curves to extrude. Enter when done, and then the path second. Pretty nice, organic, simple, clean shape. Let's do the one rail sweep. There's the icons, pretty easy to spot. Now it's asking for the rail first. And immediately, you don't have to hit enter because it knows there's only one rail. Select the cross section. Enter. We can also simplify this, which is always a good thing to do. So we get a preview of that. We just have less ISO curves. That would be easier to make modifications to. Hit OK. Next up is a 2-rail sweep. Another simple icon to spot. Okay, it's asking for rails first, second. You don't have to hit enter this time again. Cross sections. You also can continue adding cross sections for the rail sweep, both the 1-rail and 2-rail. But since I don't have more, I'm going to hit all right and accept. I want to simplify that again. Starting to look pretty similar. I'm going to try another little twist here. I'm going to actually pick the curves first, then do the command. So I'm going to go over to the loft. There's also some fun options on here you can explore later. And we'll hit OK. Now we get to the Surface and Curve Network command. This is one of the most complicated surfacing commands to use, but once you master it, there's nothing harder in Rhino. So let's just pick these guys all at the same time. Pretty simple. We don't need to start the command and then pick them in a certain order. You do occasionally have to do that if it's a very complicated set of curves. So here's the icon for Surface and Curve Network. And just as to highlight its complexity, you have a lot of options here. You can modify tolerances on the fly. You can preview it. There's a lot of edge matching. We're going to leave everything with the defaults, though. Okay, let's do a quick examination. These all look pretty much the same. I do see one difference here. When this profile was extruded along a curve, it didn't make any changes to the angle there, so it kind of maintained that same weird rotation all the way across. While the rail sweeps were kind of aware of what angle that profile was at, and they rotated as it went. So that's a good little highlight of some of the differences. Let's build another batch. Okay, so I've made some modifications to each of these, so they now will look completely different from each other. There'll be no similarities at all. You call this case B with variations. Now, anytime you see this little black dot, that's where it was modified. So we're just going to repeat the same group of commands. Extrude along a curve, curve to extrude, enter, then the path. So I've modified that angle there. And remember when we extrude, it doesn't change that angle. So that's kind of an expected result. In this 1-rail sweep, I've actually taken the difference here is the profile and reversed it. That should be interesting. Let's do a 1-rail sweep, rail first, and then cross sections. Enter to accept. We can also simplify it a bit. That is pretty cool. It's actually reversing along the way. And you can look here in the middle, it actually becomes almost perfectly straight as it makes that transition from facing one way to the opposite. 2-rail sweep, I've actually taken the top rail here and just pulled that way up into the sky. And then for the final profile, I've made it a straight line instead of a curved line. 2-rail sweep, rail 1, rail 2, then the cross sections. Make it simple. If possible, I always do that. For the loft, you can see I've taken this middle profile and just made it much taller. So select the 3 curves, launch the loft. So sometimes you do get messy edges, but if you were going to trim that surface, it would work great. Finally, a Surface and Curve Network. So just to prove how powerful this one command is, you've got modified profiles. We go to straight, back to rounded. And I've taken the top rail and pulled that up into the sky a little bit. See if we can pick all of these now and just launch the command. Surface from network of curves. You can preview and make changes. Usually just hit OK. So that's as complicated as you can imagine. And along with it, we get a lot of control points. But if you need to have something exact, this is the way to go. By the way, hit the F10 to turn those on and F11 to turn off the control points. Zoom back out. So after this demo, I'd like to share with you that there's always 2 or 3 ways to model the same shape, sometimes 4, and occasionally 5 ways. If you decide, you should just focus on which edges need to be exact, or you can focus on the resulting surface, or you can just use whatever command you think of first and give it a try. Sometimes I get unexpected results and like it better, so feel free to let the design change as you go.